nice. That I like that grabbing that zoom and him having trouble holding him in the zoom. All that's fun. So let's look at it. Let's look at it from the beginning.
Visual effects is one of those areas where it takes a lot of work to get it right. I let those guys off the leash, and the ideas just poured forth. They're just a torrent of ideas coming at you with such enthusiasm. And they would say, dude, make sound effects. And then this happens, and I'm shooting, and this explodes up. It's just great. And I would just be charmed by it. I mean, yes, we'll do it. And everybody would say, how are we going to do that? I was like, then we'll figure it out. We're not going to do all of it.
From the first film, it's been very important to John and to us that we don't just make everything CG just to make it CG.
As good as we are in the computer graphics world, you always look at a practical reference so you can either match it or augmentate it.
Dan Sudik threw real race cars around. We had real fire, real explosions.
So all these decisions are being made. It's a process that takes you even through post.
Everything is a rush. It doesn't matter how many months you give us, we're always sort of trying to beat the clock.
A lot of ideas that would work great in 2D animated environment. As you go to 3D and previs, the ideas that seem right stick and the ones fall away that don't. And then you start to see that there's certain adjustments that have to be made, but the spark and the core and the inspired ideas, try to really nurture that and preserve that. And I will continue to as we go through post-production.
We're up against it schedule-wise. We've given ourselves less time on this film than we did last time, and it's a much more ambitious project. And this was part of the fear that I had when we had started so late. Less than 2 years to do this, to come up with the story, set it up, prep it, film it, cut it, and do all the finishing touches. It's no excuse. We're gonna have to do a great film, but it does put everybody under a tremendous amount of stress. It was ambitious to begin with, and now we've got to knock it into overdrive. So there's gonna be a lot of people not sleeping. Hundreds of people not sleeping. So this is our last day at Abbey Road in London, scoring. Because of the schedule, we're editing upstairs in this facility. Meanwhile, Rick Pearson, one of our editors, is at the ranch, at Skywalker Ranch, trying to help do pre-dubs on the sound. We're still making picture changes. A tiny fraction of the effects are in. A lot of elements have been decided, but there's still a lot of things up for grabs. It's crazy. And now we're really just playing beat the clock, because I think we understand what we have to do. It's just a matter of executing it with quality to live up to what people expect and hope this film will be. There's a lot of things that have to come together for this movie to work out. When post-production, a lot of it is people expressing what their instincts are to each other and debating that back and forth. And that's a dichotomy right there. You're explaining what you feel. I actually like this ending.
Oh, you like this ending?
Well, I like the thoughtfulness of this ending. I kind of do. When you push through something, you're sometimes eliminating the best idea because it hasn't occurred to you in the moment. Undoubtedly, when you are on the floor directing, you have so many things on your mind that it would be foolish to think that in that moment you have the proper insight into how the film should be cut.
Let me see if I can get a few more frames. You need him to see it. That's the thing, is if you're seeing it.
You tend to carry in expectations that you have from the scripting process, the development process, the shooting. What take you circled, you thought that was the magic take because it felt good on the set, but really it doesn't matter. What matters is what's in the can and what the overall story is.
This cut's gonna be good.
More often than not, I found in the past that you go through this whole journey and then you finally arrive at a conclusion and you look at it, and it tends to be very similar to the first assembly because an editor looked at it with a more objective perspective.
Put it back, that wide's good there. He's not reacting to anything. Just put him after, right before she walks up, put him after.
But he gets too close to the first one.
No, but that's not,
you don't need it. It's good?
Yeah.
It's very good.
I tend to let the editors have room because the process is going to be so crazy later with so many people having voices that I want to give them a moment. What's nice in the editing room and for the director's cut is you could, I have the permission to really say, it doesn't feel good to me. try this, let's just try this. And with non-linear editing, it's easy to try different things very quick. If we could recover from Uncle Sam into it, can we just take this cut and drop Uncle Sam into that middle slot and see what happens? Let's just see, maybe it'll work. You never know. That's how the magic happens. A lot of what happens creatively at every step of the game, but especially for an editor, I think, is you just indoctrinate yourself to everything. And it's not like you consciously make decisions. I think that things occur to you. You feel it. It's instinct. It's what you feel in your gut is right.
I agree with you, but I'm wondering if you actually do it hammer first, then he just quickly goes Russia, Iran, and then we're out. Instead of making a big to-do,
The expression is the last rewrite takes place in the editing room. And that's really the most important one. And it's the part of the process I like the most.
Yeah, so
That's great. That's it. Sometimes you could eliminate like a 3-minute scene that's just tearing the movie down and just making the whole act hammock. You get into these discussions where it's like, well, we got to cut the scene. Well, you can't cut it because how else are you going to find out that this happened? And then sometimes Jarvis could help supply that.
Anton Vanko was a Soviet physicist who defected to the United States in 1963.
The Jarvis dialogue was always a very useful tool to help solve plot problems. There was a very long, protracted sequence of us figuring out that he's dying and that the heart has to be, and then we had added late in the game the idea that he has to swap an ingot out into the thing.
Do you like that, Maddie? The idea of coming out, grabbing things, walking around through the thing, calling out my soldier, putting it in.
Things would change on the set and change in the editing room. It was great to have Jarvis express what we obliquely said, but people wouldn't understand, certainly when he's putting his heart in at the beginning.
You are running out of both time and options. Unfortunately, the device that's keeping you alive is also killing you.
And then I went to Paul, because I'd worked with Paul on Wimbledon, and I love Paul. Paul's a very funny guy.
Right now, it's reading as a screen that has the stock price of Stark going up, and so this would reflect that. We're also trying to get maybe somebody to do a bit from a monologue or something from a late night show, making fun of the government, what happened in the Senate hearing, so topical humor. In which case,
Conan needs a job.
Last time he was in New York, and he did it over a tie line. We would show him the scene. We would supply him with pages. He'd read through it. This time we actually had several sessions with him, and he came in.
This movie's a bit heavier. I mean, he's dying in it.
All right.
And you kind of the only one who knows.
Right.
So there's certain times I think when it's appropriate to joke around, and other times, well, we're sort of, the audience doesn't know what's happening, but you do and he does, and it could be very helpful in that area.
He helps us with the wording, and his British accent sounds better.
This is the one that's not going to be the movie, but let's give it a shot.
Welcome home, sir. Congratulations on the opening ceremonies. They were such a success, as was your Senate hearing.
Paul and Robert have never performed together. It's always been me on one end and me on the other end. So I'm sort of in between. And then you take me out, and then they come together well.
Sir, I recommend you change out and you pull the thing, you open the thing up.
I have run simulations on every known element. I am sorry, sir. This is not a suitable replacement for Palladi.
And it's amazing how much personality we could bring to it. And it's justified because Tony Stark would program that. He's creating his friends, and it's about a person who's very isolated and the only people close to him are the creatures he created.
Jarvis, could you kindly vacuform a digital wireframe? I need a manipulatable projection at your earliest convenience.
The music in this film, we were a little bit more ambitious this time with what we were trying to do.
This is why you come here. Look at that. Ringo drank out of this one.
It was nice to come to London. Abbey Road was a really great place to come to. A sense of history, not just with the Beatles, but with film, with Star Wars and with Lord of the Rings. It's a great, great place to work.
Being that this score is sort of a bigger in scope score than the first one, we wanted to obviously go and record at Abbey Road and do it sort of the right way with a big orchestra. I think for John and the filmmakers, producers, it was fun for them because being in this beautiful, historic, big studio was wonderful. And then hearing the sound of the London Symphony Orchestra was just amazing.
Says I privatized world peace. He's on the ropes, and now he gets the, you know, the sort of the swell. The Mr. Smith goes to Washington type swell.
I have successfully privatized world peace.
He wanted to create a different score for this film because this film is a lot different than the first in that you've got different characters. You've got to do a nice.
What's nice too is your strings were really good and really James Bondy, and if we end up just mixing it out, we'll lose all of that.
Right.
We were gravitating to something a bit more orchestral. I've worked with John Debney on Elf and on Zathura, and he's done a great job for me. And remained a friend and was always a huge Iron Man fan. We like what it did for momentum.
Right,
So we're asking ourselves to do, I think, maybe
Well, let me take another shot at this one. I believe it was Kevin had an idea to come up with this Howard Stark Expo song.
Everything is achievable through technology. Better living, robust health, and for the first time in human history, the possibility of world peace.
I thought it was a terrific idea. And so who better than to hire Dick Sherman?
I mean, he did the score of the first movie I ever saw, Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. That was the first movie my dad took me to. And I remember it. I remember that. And it must have made an impression because I'm making movies. And Richard Sherman was up for doing a song.
Dick Sherman, Small World, all these other Great Big Beautiful Tomorrow, you know, Mary Poppins, all these classic songs. And Dick came over early on, a few months ago, and we started working right here at the keyboard. He was playing the different versions of the theme of his song, and I just, you know, what can you say? You hear it and you just know immediately it's so